All right, 8:30 and concrete guys are on the way. Did a little setup for him here. It's supposed to be 91 today. So, gonna try to take care of the guys. Got some Gatorade set out and some water and a little bit of shade because, as you can see, there are no trees on my lot. So, this I think will come in handy this afternoon. So, should be getting started here in about the next 20 to 30 minutes. All right, just finished up day one for the foundation. So let me show you what we've got up to this point. So we've set our batter boards up on all of our corners and we've got the house squared up. These front two corners are set off of the T-post that the environmental health had me set. One of them is over here and the other T-post is over here. If you haven't seen that video with the environmental health stuff, I'll link it up in the top. But these corners were pretty much set by the plans that we came up with for the environmental health. So we squared the rest of the house up off of this front wall and basically used Pythagorean theorem to figure out. I had my rise over run, so my 40 by 56, and then I had an app on my phone that gave me the diagonal measurement that we should have, and we are really close. We're within, I would say, no greater than an 1/8 inch, probably more like a 1/16 of an inch on square. So I'm pretty happy with that. We got to the point of diminishing returns just by moving things around and not really making any headway. So we're really close to being square, and I think I can deal with a 1/16 of an inch on 56 feet. So that is all set. The other thing we did was got the garage squared up as well, and you probably can't see it, but what we did was the garage wall and the back wall of the house is going to be a straight line. So we've basically put a string here and ran it over top of this string all the way down to the other end, the far end of the garage. And with those strings overlaid, you can't see it, but these two strings that we have left, once we got the back set, it looks like one string. It's right dead center. So that allowed us to set the back two corners for the garage. So 8 feet in between the house and the garage all the way up, and that's going to give me room to put my breezeway to connect the two. So we got these back two corners set, and then we were able to square the building using the same method and got the front two corners set as well. So the garage is squared off, the house is squared off, and footer lines are marked. So tomorrow the plan is to have the soil engineers come out and make sure, we're going to do a bearing test on the soil to make sure that the soil can hold the weight of my building with the footer that we're putting in, and that my slab will be properly supported as well. So hopefully I can get a video out on that, but we're going to call it a yesterday and head home for the evening and get some food because I'm hungry. So stay tuned, got more videos to come. Good morning, it's day two of foundation work, and this morning we are getting set to do our soil bearing test. So Catawba Valley Engineering and Testing is going to be out this morning, and I'm going to try to get a video of this whole process. To me, it's very important that this is done, just for the fact that the entire building rests on what these guys find. So they're going to tell us how deep we have to go to get to soil that will support the weight of the building. So stay tuned and we'll show you this process. So there's two parts to this test. This test is just a topsoil surface check with a probe. I'm going to say probably the diameter of a pen or a pencil, number 2 pencil. and we're just trying to push it into the ground here to see how far we can go. Most places we got an inch to an inch and a half worth of depth on the rod. There was a few spots where he was able to push it in several inches, but for the most part, this check came back satisfactory. And next we go a little bit, we dive a little deeper here and go subsurface and get a more accurate picture of what we're dealing with.
All right, so this test is called the Dynamic Cone Penetrometer. We call it the DCP. Nobody ever calls it by its full name because that'd be too difficult. Basically what we're doing is testing how hard your soil is in one small spot. And I believe the tip is supposed to represent 1 square inch.
Okay.
So what we're doing is testing the strength of the soil based off of how many hits with this calibrated hammer it takes to advance 1 3/4 of an inch.
Okay, awesome. Which is the lines that you have on your rod. Okay.
So we test the surface, auger down a foot, test that, auger down another, test that, auger down 3 feet, test that, and that represents 1 test.
Okay, awesome. Fingers crossed, man.
You start by getting it seated.
Sure.
And then you go. Seven.
That one wasn't as good as the first one, was it?
No, but it's still good.
Okay.
7, 11, 12 is fine.
Okay.
We do sets of 3.
All right. And this is the part that I think is so fascinating.
What, just cutting a nice hole in there?
Well, yeah, and then seeing the soil texture, and it's just kind of cool.
Oh, I could show you the difference between residual and fill soil, residual being natural.
And this stuff here, is that anything, the different colors, or is that's kind of rocky?
That looks like he cut a big chunk of residual soil and pushed it, and it didn't have a chance to get mushed up.
I gotcha.
But you could still tell because there's big clumps of just solid red stuff.
Yeah.
That tell you that that's kind of more of a fill soil.
Okay.
There's not much design to it. Now you can have residual soil that has no markings or streaks in it, but then there's other ways. I'm sweating already.
It is warm.
There's other ways to tell, like if you break it apart and look at the texture of the sides where it breaks, you can kind of recognize the difference. A lot of times if we see something that we're not sure about, we'll just keep going until we see a definite sign.
Gotcha.
Let's say that we're pretty close to residual soil.
That has the same grainy feel to it, I'm imagining.
Mm-hmm. I just felt the noticeable difference. I think we're in residual now.
Okay.
You think there might have been about a foot of fill here?
That's what I would guess. Probably 12 inches worth.
Well, we're right at that. No, I would say that might still be fill soil. Just a little bit. Because of how there's uniform clumps of just red in there.
Mm-hmm.
You remember how the other one was all kind of streaked looking?
Yep. I got a chance to see a lot of that when I dug the holes for the septic, the soil eval for the septic system.
Yeah.
And you could see it like on the sidewall. You could see the different colors and streaks.
Yep.
The deeper you went.
that tells you that you're in residual soil right there.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. He explained a lot of stuff too, which related to like draining and all that good stuff. So
the coolest part that makes soil science a little easy is when you find residual soil, that's the end. There's no other kind of soil under that.
yeah,
because that's untouched soil. So if you're in fill soil or you're on surface soil, there's a chance that you could find organics, anything in there, anything that shouldn't be there.
mm-hmm.
But once you're in residual, there's no going back. I want to say that's still fill. It's kind of iffy. We're still right at about a foot though.
Yeah, pretty
I
close.
bet this next one will bring up residual.
All right, so same test here
Mm-hmm.
to see the soil bearing capacity.
Five.
Yep.
Five. 5, 5, 7.
And that's kind of the minimum where we want to be is 7, right?
Yeah. So for a 2000 PSF bearing, you're looking for 8.
Okay.
But if we find out that what we just hit was residual soil, it's acceptable to go a little lower.
Okay.
But also, how deep are your footings going to be?
It depends on how deep you tell us.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to keep it open so I don't back myself into a corner.
Okay. Well, if you're cutting like a 2-foot deep footing, then you're going to be past this anyways.
Okay.
Which most footings tend to be at least a foot or 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be at least a 12-inch footing and a 12-inch wall on top. So if we have to go more than that.
Some organic material
Yep.
will cause small pockets of soft spots.
Okay.
So we just hit a small root system, and that might have caused that little bit of weaker soil.
Okay.
Do we have residual? Yep,
Yeah.
that's residual soil.
Okay. Just out of curiosity. Let me see how deep we are.
It may have been a tad bit shallower. Should be on our way to 2 feet.
Yep, we're at 2 feet right now.
It may have been a tad bit shallower.
Okay.
I don't call it until it's definitive.
Sure. No, I would rather be conservative on all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I always am. Like, if I'm not sure about it, I'm just going to wait until I'm positive that you're in residual soil.
Yeah. All right. Make this one good.
Pretty much ready to go there.
Yep. Wow, what a difference that makes.
Yeah, being in residual soil.
Yeah, oh my.
Your natural soil is good here. The fill soil, being that it was just pushed, I'm thinking an engineer or whoever's decision you're looking for, I'm thinking they're probably going to tell you to cut your footings into residual.
Yeah.
Just get through the fill, because they're so shallow. I mean, there's only a foot to a foot and a half of fill here, so
Yeah.
you'd probably be better off just burying in natural soil anyway.
Yeah,
It never hurts to be in natural soil.
for sure.
It's always going to be better than fill soil, unless it's like super engineered fill that's really, really tight.
Nice. All right. So you heard on that last hole, Jesse mentioned we were over 20. So the scale on this goes from 1 to 20, 1 being 1 drop on the hammer, which the rod would go 1 3/4 deep on one drop, or 20 drops to go 1 3/4 inch. So that last hole we were down 2 feet and we hit 20 and still didn't get the full depth that we needed. So it's over 20, which for us means that that soil can bear basically whatever we need it to. So we go ahead and stop. They stop at 20. So that was hole number 2 that we dug. The first hole was we hit over 20, a little bit shallower, which was a good thing. And then we ended up doing 3 holes, I think, in the house, and then 1 hole in between the house and the garage, just to kind of get an overall idea of the compaction all the way around the perimeter. So initially, very satisfied with it, but we're going to have to go 2 feet deep to get to virgin soil to get the weight bearing that we needed, is what it sounds like. So the report will tell us that when we get that tomorrow morning, and then we'll be able to make some more decisions. But honestly, I have a little bit of a dilemma now. We're at a crossroads, and I explain that in the next section of this video. Okay, so we're all done with the soil test, and we're at a little bit of a crossroads now. I have to decide whether I want to keep going forward with the slab idea or if I need to change direction here and go with the crawl space. The corner behind me right here is the lowest spot on the slab, and in order for me to get good solid dirt, I have to be about 24 inches below the current surface of the soil. The surface of the soil is an additional 20 inches below where I want the top of my wall, so that leaves me at 44 inches below my string line where the base of the footer needs to be. So if we decide to go with the slab, that is going to have to be repacked. So all of this soil on the back half of the house has to be taken out and brought back in 6 to 8 inches at a time and repacked. And my concrete guys can do that for me. But again, it's going to have an additional cost to it. So the other option is to go with a crawl space, which I'm going to have to re-engineer the plans. So go back to my architect and change the slab to a crawl space, and that's going to cost additional money. Plus, lumber is still expensive. Here in North Carolina, for 3/4 inch tongue and groove subflooring, we're at about 41 bucks a sheet. So that adds cost. The 2x10 stringers, the floor joist, you know, that's an additional cost. So I have some things to think about, but in reality, it comes down to whatever the engineer puts in the report that will ultimately go to the county. So I'm glad I did the test overall. I don't have the final bill yet, but it's gonna be less than $1,000 and it's gonna allow me to sleep at night, knowing that where my foundation is and where my footer is, it does have the capability of supporting, it actually greatly exceeds the need, the 2,000 PSF that is required to support my building. So we're well within the range there, and I'm pretty excited about that. I want to give a big shout out to Jesse, who came out, did the testing, and it did a lot of explaining to me. I learned a lot. Hopefully you guys picked up a few things on testing. It's my understanding that not a lot of residential builds do this. So it may be something, even if you're not building your own home, if you're having a builder do it, ask them, are they going to do a soil bearing test for your footers? How do you know that your footers are going to stay in place and they're not going to settle? You know, it's for me, it's cheap insurance, and I highly recommend it. And again, I want to thank Jesse for coming out, doing the test, and taking the time to explain things to me. I learned a lot today. And if you're in the Hickory area, Catawba Valley, engineering and testing, they can do this for you at a reasonable price, and it's cheap insurance, man. I don't think enough residential places do this. It's required for commercial buildings, but not residential. But hey, for me, it was, I needed it just for peace of mind. So with that being said, I'm going to wait for the report to come back in, and I'll update you guys on that and see which way we're going to go, either slab or crawl space. So guys, if you have any ideas or suggestions, put them in the comments below. As you all know, if you've been following along on the channel, I am not a contractor. I'm actually a pilot by trade. So I'm just doing this in my free time to build my own home, to learn, and take a little pride in my work. So yeah, drop me a comment below. If you found that the video was helpful, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done so. It all helps the channel out. And stay tuned for the results and which direction we're going to take, slab or crawl space.